What's going on, people? Welcome back to Curtis Shaw TV, back with another live stream, and happy Friday to the community, people. And you know, the weekend is just not quite the same when it's the international break, man. Usually we'd be, you know, hyped up looking forward to a Premier League weekend. Instead, you know, it's international football and qualifiers and all of that, and you know, it's a good time to maybe do something else. But yeah, it is what it is, people. We are where we are. We will be back next week with the Arsenal. But big up to everyone locked in. Happy Friday, people. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, all of that good stuff, people. Big up the whole C unit. Few things to talk about today. As you can see, being linked with hey, it's Friday then. It's Saturday, Sunday, do. Hey, listen, the weather is great at the moment in the UK. As you could probably tell, it's like a sauna in here, but we'll get through it, people. Yeah, is that a new? No, this is the old. Remember the French training kit? This was from last season, bro. You know what I'm saying? I bought nothing for a while, so nah, no new training kit, man. But listen, big up to everyone locked in. Henry Gunness are going to the beach on Saturday. Enjoy the last of the hot weather. I think by Sunday, after Sunday, it starts to go downhill again. So enjoy it while you can. Listen, let's get talking, people. A few things to talk about today. Bit of transfer news, some nominations, some chit-chat, and we'll get out of here, people. Short and snappy. Big up to everyone locked in. And rip the shirt again to that's why I told you, man. It's inflation since lockdown. We can't rip no more shirts. You got to use that for something else. So, anyway, let's get into today's show, people. Big up everyone locked in. Big up Black. Hope you're well, bro. Big up Jamar as well. And let's start with one of the main headlines of the show that we're going to talk about today. And that is Nico Ras Clark Pepe. It is over, people. It is done and dusted. He is no longer a Gooner. And this is an interesting one. This is an interesting one, really, for me. I mean, listen, I think we all knew he wasn't going to play for Arsenal again. It's just a combination of him and Mikel Arteta. It doesn't mix. For whatever reason that is, it doesn't mix. Fofty officially ends, people. Fofty is over. Fofty actually won as an FA Cup. Fofty and Sweg won as an FA Cup. I'll always, you know, respect the fact they won a trophy. Fofty won as an FA Cup and a Community Shield, actually. During lockdown, that was actually with, you know, hardly any fans in the stadium. But it's one of them, innit? It's like a what might have been with this guy. You know, I look at Pepe as one of those players that has ability, has quality, but I think somebody just said it there in the chat. Where is it? One Love didn't have the fire in his belly, and that's how I always felt. Every time I watched Pepe live in the stadium, I was like, come on, do a bit more. Like I always go back to this one when we played Newcastle at the Emirates, and Danny Rose was on loan there from Tottenham. And I remember Danny Rose getting booked in the first half, and I was thinking, yes, second half, Pepe, he's on a yellow, he's going to be scared of him, he'll get him sent off, he's going to be a mess. And I don't think he actually really ran at him the whole of the second half. And I came out of that stadium thinking, this guy's not the one. Like, he's got the ability, but he just does, there's something just not there. He doesn't have the intensity in his game. Which is why at the time I always said we should have signed Zaha, because he had that fire in his belly and that aggression. But I'm just going to talk about him quickly and go through some of your comments. Latte said, please, Big C, what's the difference in talent between Kai and Pepe? Arteta agenda. Listen, I hear you on that. I think Pepe, at the moment, definitely would be able to perform better than Havertz is. To be honest, Latte, you could probably perform better than what Havertz is at the moment. And I think he would have been decent competition for Saka. You know what it's like, people. We all know what it's like. You work in an environment where you and a manager don't get along. Sometimes there's no apparent reason. there's just a personality clash. And I think because of his laid back nature, doesn't always work that hard defensively. I think he's probably a player that frustrates Mikel Arteta, slows the game down at times as well. It just wasn't going to happen. You know, it wasn't his signing as well. We always have to remember the manager signed Havertz. He didn't sign Pepe. This was an Emery signing, and let's be honest, Emery didn't even really want him. Emery wanted Wilfried Zaha as well. So listen, there are a few reports going around about this signing. By the way, some of the articles are claiming that it was a free transfer. That Arsenal have cancelled the contract and he's gone for nothing. And there are a few websites, I mean, Get French Football are claiming that Arsenal got £3 million for the deal. Listen, I think from an Arsenal point of view, if they got £3 million or nothing, either way, they've had a shocker. You know, this is the second highest transfer in Arsenal history, £72 million, and they've got peanuts for him. I know £3 million would be a lot of money for us, but for a football club of that size and paying that much, I've always said Arsenal, when they want to sell a player, they banish them and they show everyone, this player, you're not training with the team, you're not going on the tour, I'm not involving you. I think it makes it too easy for the buying club to get them on the cheap. You know, where you look at, and I give examples, you look at, say, Manchester United with Maguire. He was on tour, he was playing. I mean, they should have sold him, they tried to. But they got a £30 million offer for a 30-year-old Harry Maguire. £30 million offer for McTominay, a.k.a. McChicken Sandwich, you know. And I think Arsenal should have took Pepe on tour, should have let him train with the first team. Make it seem like, okay, I'm willing to sell him, but if you don't buy him, I'm cool. You know what I mean? I'll keep him. Even if that's not really the case, I think Arsenal make it too obvious to the world. I don't want this guy. He's not training with us. And in the end, clubs will turn up and make ridiculous offers because there's no way on earth Arsenal should be getting £3 million for Nicolas Pepe in this market. This market is unbelievably inflated at the moment. You've seen it. You only have to look at the market right now with what the Saudis are willing to pay, what clubs are paying for young players, relatively unproven players. Arsenal should be getting at least, 15 million quid for him. He's still a decent player. But hopefully it's something that they learn going forward. You know, I always think, you know, you push a player to the side and show the whole world you don't want them, they're not going to turn up and offer you some value for something they know you don't want. That's our issue, said Cliffo. We exile players who are obviously being sold. I bet we could have gotten more for Balogun if he played 100%. After the first couple of games, everyone knew that Balogun was being pushed out of the door. So in Monaco, turn up, we'll give you 30, 35 plus add-ons. You know, yet Højlund's costing 70 million, scored 9 goals in Italy. You know, but you've got to make these players seem like they're prized possessions rather than banishing them. Something we got to learn from. And listen, I know he is on big wages and we do need to reduce the wage bill. AJ said, to be fair though, Curtis on big wages, other Premier League clubs weren't in for him. They weren't, but Saudi clubs were in for him. You know, and Saudis are paying huge money. But it is what it is, you know. I think it's important to remember as well with Pepe. I know we're all going to sit here. A lot of you are saying he's a flop. And ultimately, you know, you pay 72 million and sell him for 3 million. It is a flop, no matter how you look at it. But I think it's important to remember, just from a more positive point of view, 2020 to 21 season, 16 goals, 6 assists, second in player of the season. I think you've got to put some respect on that. You know, he's produced more than what Sancho has produced. He's produced more than what Antony has produced at United, produced more than Lukaku at Chelsea, who cost £100 million. And even Jack Grealish, who is a good player and has obviously just won a treble, he plays a slightly different way. He's never, you know, scored 16 plus goals in a season for Manchester City. I know a lot of these goals were obviously in Europe as well, so you could say they were easier. But he still scored 10 goals in the Premier League that season. 10 goals, you know, in 29 games, 20 starts. So he scores 1 in 2. So listen, I think there was a player there. I don't think we got the best out of him. Maybe the styles just didn't mix. I've always said he's a counter-attacking player. We're trying to be a possession-based team. He's not necessarily a possession-based winger. But could we have kept him, as Saka back up till the end of the season? I don't know. The interesting thing about this deal, he's only signed until the end of the season to Trabzonspor. Trabzonspor are not in Europe. They finished 6th last year in the Turkish league. That leaves them outside of the European places, so he's not going to be playing in Europe. Trabzonspor, of course, Kevin Campbell played for them. And Kevin Campbell will be on the show on Tuesday at 2 p.m. We'll obviously be previewing the Arsenal-Everton game. We'll talk to him about Trabzonspor as well and what it will be like for Pepe. So listen, for me, all the best for Pepe. It didn't work out. It's a shame. I think there was a talented player there. We were hyped when he signed. We loved the celebration. We loved the first game against Burnley when he nutmegs that guy and the way he runs past Van Dijk at Anfield. But I just think that there's something missing in his game, and it's probably more a mentality issue. But I do think we could have got more use out of him at the club. I do think we slightly mismanaged him. But all the best to Pepe. Goes to Trabzonspor for a pretty pitiful £3 million, which is, pretty crazy. But it is what it is. Weird transfer, to be honest. Not sure why he did not go to Saudi. Yeah, interesting to go to Trabzon till the end of the season. If he doesn't tear it up there, he could be out of contract again. So it is what it is. Fleabird said he's gone. Honestly, we won't miss him. Smooth said, I've never seen a Meg that crazy. It was wild. I can't lie. Bruce said, Big C, I just get the feeling that Arteta has an arrogance about him and wants to hype to be about him, so he can't handle big players that would steal the thunder. He needs to change that about himself. A lot of people have said that about him. It's difficult, innit? I've said many times, I think Arteta wants clean, well-behaved players, right? But the problem you have is you look at some of the world's best players, they come with a lot of baggage and a lot of ego. Look at Kylian Mbappe and the antics that go off at PSG. Thierry Henry was said to be difficult to handle on the training ground. Very big ego. Fell out with players. Alexis Sanchez fell out with numerous players. Anelka was moody, Van Persie had a big ego. Some of the best players are the most difficult to manage. And moving forward, Arteta's got to show us that, I think, that I can work with a player that's a top talent, but also a bit difficult, but I can handle that for the sake of the team, So, it is what it is. We'll have to see. Jason said, why would you need to handle a player? Mbappe wouldn't do that at Madrid. Maybe not, but, you look at... DV saying a ridiculous... No one says that when Pep ditches players. I know, but Pep's always in a situation where... If you look at the signings, Pep doesn't really go for the top bracket that often, does it? Pep's never gone for the Neymars at Man City and the Mbappes and things like that. And you look at some of the players he had who had the bigger personalities, like Yaya Torres, he's fell out with them. But obviously Pep can make it work. But there are other managers. You look at Sir Alex Ferguson, was so good as a man manager at dealing with, Cristiano Ronaldo. Wayne Rooney was getting involved in things off the pitch, and he managed to deal with them. Cantona was fly kicking people in the crowd. So, they're the kind of things that I think he has to learn to deal with. But obviously, Pep seems to not like those personalities. So it may be that Arteta is going down a similar route as well. Pep fell out with players like Zlatan and things like that as well. So, listen, it's interesting. Pep couldn't handle Zlatan. Listen, the game has changed. I don't think you have as much of them nowadays, Rooney and Grannies. Yeah, we all know about that. But listen, we'll see moving forward. But yeah, all the best to Pepe. We got £3 million, people. I'm sure that will do a lot for Arsenal moving forward. Anyway, a few other things to talk about. Pepe's gone. Long live Pepe. Hasn't really had that many great moments. But when you look at the highlights clip that I've retweeted, he has scored some very good goals. But it is what it is. We move on. Let me read these super chats quickly. Big up Curtis Shaw-Kettier. I mean, there was a time I would have banned you for that. But, he's not in bad form, so just a 3-minute timeout should sort that out. I'm joking, by the way. Yeah, big up yourself. Still would like to be rated higher than that, to be honest. But, it's Friday. It's international break. We're chilling. Big up SG. Young Gunner, if we kept Balogun for this season, and even if he only scored 10 goals, he'd still sell for more than 40 million. He'd have Premier League experience plus English tax. I mean, he does play for America, so the English tax maybe won't suffice. But I think the Premier League thing would have definitely helped. But, Jesus and Eddie, he loves those two. So I think as third choice, he wouldn't have, sat down and been that. Bleck said Zlatan, Eto'o, Yaya Toure. Yeah, players that Pep struggled to cope with. Big personalities, big egos. Big up Bleck. Christian said that 3 million is going for win the dogs tennis balls. Yeah, I don't think that's going to do much for us in the January transfer market, Christian. That is for sure. Big up yourself. Kai Shaw, Ammo. That is outrageous. I don't want any comparison. Maybe in 6 months' time it all works out. But at the moment, that is slander of the highest level. There's not much worse you could call me as an Arsenal player at the moment than Kai Shaw. Curtis Havertz, that really is, that's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. Let's see what you're saying in the comments. Big up Paul who said hello, Curtis. Big C, you say he loves Eddie and Gabby, but Toney's our main target. That don't make sense to me. Well, the tabloids are saying Ivan Toney's the main target, but targets don't always necessarily end up at Arsenal, as we've seen over the years with Jan Villa, Julian Draxler, Luis Suarez, Karim Benzema, Mudryk, Caicedo. The list goes on and on. I'd be here all day, but being a target doesn't necessarily mean anything. Yeah, the slander is of the highest level on this Friday, but information and entertainment, I'm all here for it. Sure, Havertz is, I'm just... Listen, I hope he turns things around and that will be a compliment in 6 months. But right now, it's absolutely outrageous. Anyway, let's move on. Let's talk about a player that we're being linked with for January. It's no stranger. Somebody we've spoken about time and time again, and it's man like Ivan Toney, aka get me to the bookmakers. I'm joking. Well, I'm actually not joking, but he did say in the interview all the bets were online, so effectively he doesn't go to the bookmakers. But, maybe it's not the time to make betting jokes. I've got a wicked personality. But anyway, Ivan Toney, again, being linked today with a January move to the Arsenal. Listen, speculation at the moment is rife around Ivan Toney. He posted some pictures yesterday of him in training by himself, not training with the rest of the group. I think they said by the end of October, he's able to start training with the team again at the training ground. At the moment, he's only able to train by himself. Crazy, really. But we'll have to see. But there's a story today in the Daily Express. Arsenal are monitoring Brentford forward Ivan Toney for a possible January move to the Emirates. Mikel Arteta believes Ivan Toney can add to the firepower at the club and believes he can even play alongside Gabriel Jesus if Jesus was to employ a wide role in the team. It is believed Brentford want between 70 and 80 million pounds to allow their star striker to leave in January. He will only have 2 years left on his deal in the summer and has made it clear he would like a move and has spoken recently about a move to Arsenal and Liverpool. Listen, we've spoken about him time and time and time again. This is a tabloid. As I said, listen, sometimes it is paper talk. Sometimes it comes to fruition. I'm not going to talk about it for too long, as we've spoken about him on a number of occasions. I've made my point clear about Ivan Toney. The striker market is very limited, and the striker market is very expensive. He's 27 years of age. He scored 20 league goals in the Premier League last season. He was the second highest English goal scorer after Harry Kane. 20 goals, 4 assists, 9 yellow cards as well, which is interesting. That he gets booked quite often. But I've said time and time again, for me, you're talking about one of the best strikers in the division. We watched him last season. You look at those numbers that he produced when he played against Arsenal. He won every single duel against William Saliba. 10 headers. He won all of them. He was the third top goal scorer in the Premier League last season behind Erling Haaland and Harry Kane. Scored more than Salah, more than Rashford, more than Martinelli, more than Callum Wilson. He's a beast. For me, number one striker target. Number one. I like Osimhen. I would take Osimhen. But Osimhen's going to cost you 120, 130, 140 million. Then you've got Evan Ferguson, who is a player that I like. But we know from dealing with Brighton, when they've got a prized asset, you're not getting him cheap. You are not getting Evan Ferguson out of Brighton, in my opinion, for less than 80, 90, 100 million. So... and he's unproven at the moment over the course of a season. If Evan Ferguson scores 20 plus goals this season or gets maybe 17, 18, then the narrative changes with him. But I just think every big Premier League club who needs a striker will be all over him. And I think he'll cost you an absolute fortune. Because you look at Chelsea, they could do with a striker. Tottenham sold Kane, didn't replace him. They'll need one. We're not desperate for one, but we could do with one. Now, if you can get Toney out of there for maybe 60 or 70, or maybe you can chuck a player to Brentford and reduce the price slightly, then I think he's the one. I think he's the one personally. I mean, John said Eddie plus 40 million. Number one, would we get rid of Eddie? I think they would take him now he's in the England squad. It's just, would Arteta let go of his stepson? I don't know. I'm going to put a poll up. Right? And I'm gonna say, if we're looking for a striker, what striker would you go for? Make it realistic. One that would probably be gettable out of his club. 4 that come to mind, just because they're 4 that we've been linked with before. Which striker would you sign for Arsenal? The 4th one, I'm gonna put Lautaro Martinez as well, because we have been linked with him a number of times. So I'll go Osimhen, Evan Ferguson, and then we'll go Ivan Toney and Lautaro. Because I think you could get him out of Inter Milan, to be honest. I'm not actually a big fan of him, though. So, and if there's anyone else, feel free to throw them in the comments. Some people saying Patrick Schick and Tammy Abraham. Although he's injured at the moment, isn't it? Osimhen. Let me write this in the poll. And yeah, there we go. Osimhen, Ferguson, Toney, Lautaro, Martinez. There's the 4. Which striker would you sign for Arsenal? Lacazette is my number one target. Hey, Laka. Awoniyi. Yeah, I mean, I saw an article that Chelsea inquired for Awoniyi. I've always said I think Awoniyi is a problematic striker who'll cause you problems. And he did get, I think, 10 goals for Forest. I just don't look at him as Arsenal level. I think he's a bit scruffy. You know, he is a big target man, will cause you problems. Ferguson is the one, said Olu. Vlahovic, yeah, Vlahovic I could have put on that list, actually. He just feels like one of them deals that won't happen. Timo Werner, I don't want Timo anywhere near Arsenal. Curtis, Eddie is better than Lautaro. Sesko, a lot of you saying Sesko in the comments as well. Benjamin Sesko, how many goals did he actually score last season? Plays for Leipzig. Oh, was he just signed for them? He was at Salzburg. 16 goals for Salzburg, though. He is a good player, only 20 years of age. Havertz plus 40 million for Toney. I'd be all over that. Watkins, people saying Watkins. I don't know what it is about Watkins, you know. I don't rate him. Some of you saying Calvert-Lewin. I don't know about that one. Listen, there's options out there. Let me know what you think. I mean, Mbappe, yeah, free transfer in the summer. I think we all know he's going Madrid. Ferguson will be too much for Edu to negotiate, and the bidding war will be crazy. Just get Toney and we move. Listen, the reason, the 4 players that I've named, Lautaro Martinez, I actually don't want him at all. So I shouldn't have even really put him on the list, but there was a 4th option. Some of you saying Jonathan David. I'll sign Curtis Shaw. I'd take him, top quality. Toney or Ferguson. Listen, I agree with what the previous comment said. If Ferguson bangs goals this season, the price is going to skyrocket and there'll be an auction for him. And I don't think Arsenal win that auction because Chelsea or, other clubs will go for him. I think Osimhen, I just don't see Edu negotiating with Napoli for one of their best players. I haven't got the confidence in him getting that deal done. I think it'll be at least 120 million. So I think Ivan Toney is the easiest one. We obviously got a good relationship with Brentford. We got David Raya on loan, which was a good, deal for Arsenal to give us another year to enable us to pay that. And I just think he's Prem proven. He's ready. He wants to sign for Arsenal. He's physical. It's a no-brainer, in my opinion, to go for Toney. Isaac would be expensive, 60 million. They paid for him. They're going to want more than that. They've got big money behind them as well. I think it would be expensive. Very good player. Alvarez from City. Pep ain't going to do that. Edu will get kidnapped. Forget Osimhen. You're right. I'm not sure he'd come back. Ansu Fati will cut into Ferguson's goals, says Brian. Jason said, look at Watkins' profile. He would cook in our system. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I'm unfair on Ollie Watkins. I just think he's an average Premier League striker. Get you 10 to 12 goals. I mean, he scored a great goal against Arsenal last season, to be honest, at Villa Park when he dropped that step over. But I don't see it with Ollie Watkins, if I'm being totally honest. So we'll see. But listen, Arsenal apparently looking at strikers. I'm not so sure they are, but I hope they are. Darwin Núñez, I actually like him. I think there's a lot of potential there. It's whether Klopp can unearth it or not. He seems to always miss big chances, but I do think there's a good striker in Darwin Núñez. But for me, get Ivan Toney to the carpet and keep him off those betting apps. Would you take Rashford? You know me, I'm a big fan of Rashford. I would take Rashford, although I actually don't think he's that good up front. He's much better on the left, as we found out on Sunday. I'll leave that poll up for a few minutes. Let me know what you think on that one, people. Let's talk from prolific strikers to not so prolific strikers / midfielders. Yeah, you've guessed it. The man, the myth, the legend, the man who kicked the air as he went to drive the ball into the bottom corner at the weekend. Yeah, you've guessed it. Kai Havertz, a.k.a. Shy Havertz, a.k.a. Dry Havertz. Kai Havertz has been speaking over there on international duty with Germany. They've got a lot of problems in the German national team at the moment, so he's not even going to a nice, relaxed situation over there in Germany. But Kai Havertz was asked about his difficult start at Arsenal. Kaitis Shorverts. I mean, you lot are going too far now. Here Havertz, the new Michael Jordan trainer. Here Havertz, people. Kai Havertz on his difficult start. He said, sure, something like that keeps you busy, but I often had a phase and then you often only see the negative. It's not the first club where I start again. Of course you want to succeed as soon as possible, but I know that there are such phases. I'm trying to approach it relaxed. Give him some love. Show him some love, people. Oh, baby, if you want me, dun, 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 you got to show me love. Words are so easy to say. Oh, maybe we should get Havertz on the back of our shirt, people. Maybe that'll inspire him. No, I'm all right, thanks. I definitely won't be. But anyway, Havertz. Let's talk about this, what he says. Something like that keeps you busy. I mean, it would keep you busy, mate. The amount of chances you miss, you must be knackered. You've got an agenda. He was a baller at Leverkusen. Be patient. Show him love. That's what they'll tell you. It was a big tune, by the way. Yeah, Havertz, it definitely, it's keeping us busy as well. We're trying to figure out how this is going to work out. Listen, I mean, I sound like a hypocrite, or a hypocrite as I was called that day. because, you know, during the watch along against Man United, I believe I called him the donkey out of Shrek. I apologise for that. Not to Kai Havertz, by the way. I'm apologising to the donkey out of Shrek. He's an absolute legend. Eddie Murphy's voice. He's nailed it in those Shrek films for me. So I apologise to the donkey out of Shrek. He certainly didn't deserve that level of slander. They're award-winning movies. In terms of Kai Havertz, though, if Edu's watching this, by the way, because Edu said in America he tunes into a lot of Arsenal content creators, you know, I'm sure he won't like these comments. But information and entertainment, I'm all here for it, people. He said, I often had a phase and then you often only see the negative. It's not the first club where I start again. Of course, you want to succeed as soon as possible, but I know that there are such phases. I'm trying to approach it relaxed. Arteta said 43 formations, so maybe there's 43 phases. You've seen the Matrix, people, you know, all sorts of phases and different. This is the bad phase, but what I'm trying to figure out is how long this phase goes along for. Before he starts. I mean, at the moment, all I want him to do is kick the ball. I don't know about anybody else. I just want him to kick the ball. I'm not even asking him for a goal at this stage. I just want, when that ball's bouncing and he goes to volley it, I'd like him to make contact with the ball. I think that's a starting point, to be honest. So forget 50 Shades of Grey. It's 43 phases of Havertz at the moment, people. Do you know what I mean? Just make contact. That's all I'm asking for at this moment in time, Kai. You know, when that ball's there and you try and shoot, just hit it. Even if you put it out the stadium where Partey used to put his shots, just make some contact. It's been 4 games. Give him time. Nah, man, listen. Like I said, people, we all saw that first 3 years at Chelsea. I know it's a new club, but it's the same league. Maybe he does need to relax. Maybe he's anxious. Listen, all jokes aside, information and entertainment. That was the entertainment. Let's talk info. He's got to start producing some moments, is what I keep saying, people. You know, at the moment, he isn't doing anything. He just needs something that we can cling to and go, oh, that was good. Like I said, you know, when Pepe dropped that nutmeg, it was a great moment against Burnley. Kai Havertz just needs moments now. Produce a great pass. Do a great bit of skill. Hit a shot that smashes against the crossbar. Give us something to work with. We can't build without, you know, the cement. Right now I'm trying to build with sand. It's just crumbling. You're giving us nothing to work with. So I hope when he comes back from international duty, he's in a different frame of mind. But, you know, for me, he needs to be on the bench against Everton. This comment afterwards was interesting as well. I've said this many times. Not everyone agrees. Some people do. Kai Havertz said, I've said often enough that the striker position isn't a bad thing for me. I've played as a 9 at Chelsea for what felt like a year and a half and was very successful. I mean, I'd calmed down with the very successful thing, you know. He scored 7 goals last season. But, you know, Champions League winning goal tax, I get it. Biggest club game of football, you scored the winner. We can't take that away from you. He said, I tried to play the position in the best possible way and be successful. So he's doing the old... You know, when he signed for Arsenal, you know, I can play in midfield. I played in midfield for Leverkusen. Now he's stinking out the Emirates in midfield all of a sudden. Oh, I can play as a 9 if you want me to, boss. I'm not actually a midfielder. I get it. It's a get-out clause. You know, things aren't going well. Press the emergency button and, you know, raise the alarm. I get it. I'd probably do the same thing. If I was stinking in midfield... all of a sudden, I'm telling everyone that I'm a striker. But I have said many times, I think Havertz is a better striker than a midfielder. I think if you was playing him as a 10 behind the striker with no real defensive responsibility, you could probably get more out of him. But Odegaard is our best creator. I think his best game for Arsenal was up front. Community Shield, he led the line well. He held the ball up well. If he scores in that game, he probably gets man of the match. As crazy that, you know, as I talk about fine margins, you know, he was holding off Diaz. He got in great positions, but there's a lot of competition in front of him. The manager loves Eddie. Jesus, you saw the other day, the way he made Dallo slide into another galaxy. That he's the main man. So Havertz is probably third choice striker. So, you know. But interesting that he called his year and a half up front very successful. I'm just looking at his numbers up front at Chelsea because I don't really look at them. But he got 8 goals in 29 games and 7 goals in 35 games. I mean, if that's very successful, I'd hate to see anything less than that, because if he produced them numbers playing up front for Arsenal, you know, I wouldn't necessarily be best pleased with it. Let's just put it that way. 7 goals, 1 assist in 35 games, 65 million, 220 grand a week, 5-year deal. Nicolas Pepe, 16 goals, 6 assists. Sold for £3 million, deemed not good enough. If I speak, I'm suspended at least 6 months. But anyway, let's move on, people. Let's move on. Enough of the Kai Havertz. You cheat, he said, what's up, community? I'm in South Korea, still not missing the information and entertainment. Big up your damn self. Sid said, I'm ready to give Havertz time, but he has to start putting some better and high-level performances. I'm with you, because we're stuck with him. So we can come on here as much as we want and say, bin him, sell him, not good enough, don't play him. We actually have to figure out a way for him to produce more than what he's producing. We can't sell him. You know, that's just not how football works. We're not going to sell him that quick. Arteta's got to figure out how to get more out of him on the pitch. I think you bring him out the team, allow him to play off the bench, and you hope that, you know, listen, let's put it this way. In the summer, a lot of us were saying Fabio Vieira, not good enough, lightweight, needs a protein shake, goes missing, doesn't do enough. Now people are singing his praises, saying he should start the next game. It doesn't take a lot to turn things around. Fabio Vieira's had 2 substitute appearances and the winning penalty in the Community Shield, and all of a sudden, you know, he's flavour of the month. So as much as I don't rate Havertz and don't necessarily think he was the right signing, which I 100% wouldn't have signed him. You look at what Maddison's doing, you know, we should have signed Maddison. But it doesn't take long to turn things around, trust me. And he needs to keep that, you know, come off the bench, score a winning goal, start a few games later, look better on the ball, and things can change quickly. We're fickle football fans, people. It's the reality. Big up Carl Rossi in the chat, said afternoon, Curtis. Big up yourself, bro. Big up Brian, who said 007 Kai. Raul said Lacazette scored 4 goals in a season. We can't moan, but we have to get something out of him. Chelsea move on players easily. We have to get a level of output. What I would say with Havertz, right, is I don't think you give him more than maybe a year, because he's been in the Premier League. You know, I think some players, you've got to say, give them 2 or 3 years. You know, you look at Fabio Vieira now. He speaks the language. He's had a full pre-season. He probably needed that first season just to figure out what was going on. Havertz has lived in England, lived in London. He wouldn't have had to move house. You know, he speaks the language. Okay, it's going to take him a bit of time to adjust to the style of football, but we play better football than Chelsea. So he, for me, doesn't get the same amount of time. You know, I think he needs a shorter period of time before, you know, you see him in the team. But yeah, I have to admit, and I said this the other day, it's always difficult when 2 players sign in similar positions and you compare the 2 and you get the bad one. You know, I remember, like I said, when Darwin Núñez signed and Haaland signed, they were the comparison. This year it's Havertz and Maddison, and Maddison's cooking. You know, I even seen him on international duty with Saka, and you think, why did we not go for him? He was cheaper as well, but it is what it is. Let me read these few super chats. How about Curtis Shortenelli? I prefer that one rather than comparing me to Havertz, which is outrageous. Big up SG. Caleb, big up with a super sticker. And he then said Saka is better with Thomas Partey playing. Yeah, progressive on the ball. Young Steve Cooper here, said Eros. Listen, nobody wants to look like Steve Cooper, that's for sure. He looks like he could be in a new horror movie. But hey, SG said if Havertz was a dog, he'd have been put down. Oh, man. Let's not do that. I mean, he might be a useful dog, you know. Alfred said, I'm going to say it. Saka is now slowing down the attack as an opponent is hate to face Martinelli and Neto. Both will run up my fullbacks all game. One thing that I think Saka is suffering from. Number one, he's so highly rated now that every club doubles up on him. Your game's got to go to another level when that happens. Second of all, Ben White's been playing in a back three and not overlapping him as much, which makes it more difficult. But I do agree Saka hasn't started the season on fire. But, Saka is not a player that I'm concerned about. What I think is a problem is he has no competition. So he knows he can drop a 5 out of 10 and still not get substituted. And that isn't Saka's fault. That's the manager's fault. Trixie said he's the adopted child the new parents didn't want. It's like you meet a girl and, she's a good one. She's got she's got a kid from a previous relationship. And you're like, damn, just got to put up with the baggage, and play stepdad on the weekends. That's what Havertz looking like right now. Dylan, big up for the super sticker. And SG, Havertz looks like the caretaker from Scary Movie. Dear, listen, I apologise if anyone from Arsenal watches this. The slander is outrageous. Read this chat window on YouTube. We speak the truth, people. We speak the truth. You met a stunner, but she's got a kid you don't really want, but, you might have to take him out and just play football for 2 hours on a Saturday afternoon just to get you the Monday to Friday, with the single mum that you met. It's got to happen sometimes. But hey, let me not speak too much before I get in trouble. Ben said, I've been there, mate. Well, you know what? Let me not say too much before it goes in a direction I don't want it to go into, people. Anyway, enough of the Kai Havertz and the stepmums chat. Let's talk about Starboy and Martin Odegaard. Yeah, it gets a bit wild. I have to contain myself at times. But information and entertainment, people, that's what we're here for. 2 players have been nominated for Ballon d'Or, people. These are the conversations we want to be having. Hey, Eros, relax yourself. No, relax. See, the comments. Once the comments set me off, then I start getting crazy, and then you start getting crazier. Then all of a sudden, I'm looking, thinking, if this continues, the YouTube channel's in jeopardy. So I have to calm down. Calmer, people, calmer. It's Friday. It's hot. Let's just relax. I know it's the international break, but Eros, you're not wrong, but, let's not, continue that conversation anymore. Anyway, Ballon d'Or settings. The first time since 2009 that Arsenal have had more than one player in the Ballon d'Or nominations. That 2009 nomination was Fabregas. And man like Andre Arshavin, of all people. Martin Odegaard and Bukayo Saka made the 30-man list of Ballon d'Or nominations. Now, I don't expect any of them to win it, of course. It's going to be Messi or Haaland, I would imagine. Mbappe will probably be the third one as well. But great to see these 2 guys in there. If one of them maybe makes the top 10 or something, it would be amazing. But listen, congratulations to both of them. And listen, I spoke the other day about Odegaard and how he deserved his flowers. I'd questioned him when he was on loan that he was lightweight, but he's turned into a top quality player for me. And Saka's Saka, innit? He keeps producing. So some of the names on the list were a little bit dodgy, I thought. But listen, it's always positive when Arsenal players are being nominated for the top prizes. 2 players that have signed. Well, Odegaard apparently is in negotiations at for a new contract. And obviously Saka signed a new deal at the back end of last season. Rafa Leao wasn't in it. Rashford wasn't in it. I thought Leao was in it, actually. Am I wrong with that? I thought Rafa Leao was on the list. I know Rashford wasn't on the list. Let's have a look on the list quickly. Ballon d'Or list. Yeah, and a lot of Man United fans were not happy that Rashford wasn't on it. Ballon d'Or list. No Rafa Leao. No Rafa Leao. I mean, some of them. Moani. I mean, Moani's a good player. This is the guy who missed the chance in the World Cup final. 15 goals for Stuttgart last season. I mean, Griezmann's on it. I don't know how good a season he had. Who else is on it? Yassine Bounou. I think he plays for Morocco. I mean, the rest of them are Lautaro Martinez. No, he shouldn't be on there for me. There's a few ones that shouldn't be on there, but Messi will win it. And just by the way, I I know there's a lot of debate and argument at the moment. Let me just end that striker poll. 55% of you saying get Ivan Toney, 26% Osimhen, 15% Ferguson, and 3% Latoro. I think there's a 1% missing there. I think that I think Messi should win the Ballon d'Or. And I know a lot of people don't agree with that because a lot of people think that Haaland should get it. And I understand that they won the treble. He was the best player in world football for the 12 months or the 10-month season. So in theory, Haaland should win it. However, I feel that what Messi did was just so much more epic than what Haaland did. And not everyone will agree with that. I'm going to put a poll up. Let's get a poll up. Who should win Ballon d'Or? Right? Messi, Haaland, or Mbappe? Because I want to know your opinions on this. Who should win Ballon d'Or? I personally think there's only one winner, and it's Lionel for me. But I want to know your opinions. I'm here for greatness, and he don't get no greater than him on what he did. But I do understand the Haaland argument. Really, you know, the argument should be he's had the better 10 months. But I believe City win the FA Cup whether he's there or not. I think they win the Premier League whether he's there or not. He got them over the finish line in the Champions League, but he didn't score in either semi-final or the final. So I'll give him second. Just for me, Messi plays for Argentina, retires from international football, is booed by Argentina fans as he retires. You're not Maradona. You know, you'll never be Maradona. You act like you're Spanish, like you're from Barcelona. He comes back out of retirement, plays for Argentina, wins the Copa America in Brazil, then goes to the World Cup at the age of 35, wins player of the tournament, scores in the semi-final, scores in the World Cup final, scores his penalty. For me, that's one of the greatest moments I've ever seen in football. It's as simple as that. Him winning that World Cup, I think, is one of the greatest moments I've ever seen in football. And you can say it's a 5-week tournament. You know, it doesn't compare to what Haaland did over the 10 months. But I just felt it was more epic. And the fact Haaland didn't score in the final or the semi-finals, didn't score in the FA Cup final, I'm not taking anything away from him. 36 goals in the Premier League, it's unbelievable. But it's Messi for me, I'm afraid. But the vote's there. I want to know what you think. Only Messi can stop a guy who won a treble and scored as many goals as he did. Just won the League Cups for Miami. I mean, I know people say it's MLS, but they were bottom of the league. They got no right to win anything. The Argentina campaign was sus. A lot of people say that, but there's no proof, is there, to say it is. They gave Haaland Player of the Year to free up the Ballon d'Or for Messi. They knew what they were doing. They sweetened him up. Alfred said, we keep saying Saka hasn't had Ben White to overlap him. Martinelli doesn't have that, but he produces. At least Saka's got Odegaard. I hear you. With Zinchenko, Martinelli doesn't really have an overlap. I suppose the plan was for Xhaka to do that. He overlapped him a lot, and then obviously they want Havertz to do that, but Havertz is Havertz. Pratim said, enjoying football isn't the same as understanding. 99.9% of us fans won't ever understand how football at the very high level works. Tactically, end of the day, I just hope we succeed. Trust the process. Big up yourself. Mamadou said, keep Nketiah. The next Thierry Henry 14, no Toney. Yeah, right. That's trolling of the highest level. He ain't no Thierry Henry. He wears the 14. That's the only similarity. Big up Gunts. Hope you're well, bro. Messi's name has rung out for over a decade. Pratim said Messi just because it's rigged just like the World Cup. I don't buy into it, man. I thought what we saw in the World Cup was just pure greatness. All I saw in that World Cup, people, was greatness from Messi. He sent Vardy for his packed lunch. He was taking penalties, just walking up to the ball. It was Lionel, man. LV said Kylian for me. Messi already had World Cup, cheated for him. Too biased to say Haaland. Yeah, I mean, Mbappe, in reality, Mbappe put in one of the greatest World Cup finals that we've ever seen. He scored a hat-trick in a World Cup final and scored his penalty in the shootout. But ultimately, because France didn't win it, he won't get it. He'll probably come third. So it is what it is. But Messi the GOAT, man. Messi got to win that Ballon d'Or for me, man. I know I'm a massive Messi fan, so maybe I'm overly biased, but the greatness was... Listen, what stands in your memory more now? Haaland winning a treble or Messi winning that World Cup? Messi was the icon of that World Cup as well. You know, he turned up in the biggest games. Before we finish, people, Rodri will be third, says P. Elder. He could be, actually. He scored the winner in the Champions League, but I feel like Mbappe will finish above Rodri, man. Champions League, a lot of goals and a hat-trick in the World Cup final. I think he might edge it. But Manager of the Month has been announced for the month. 5 nominees: Postecoglou, David Moyes, Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola, and Mikel Arteta. Who will win it? I don't know, really. You never really know with this. Moyes had a good start. Considering he sold Declan Rice. I mean, looking at the Premier League table, I think they're up there at the moment, aren't they? West Ham. Let's have a look. Who would I give it to? City are top. They're always... I'd probably give it Moyes, you know. They're fourth. They're above Arsenal on goal difference. Considering he lost Rice, I'd probably give it David Moyes. Postecoglou started well as well, to be honest, and Klopp. I'd probably give it Moyes. But as much as it pains me to say it, I have been impressed with the football that Postecoglou's playing. But I think Moyes deserves it, man. West Ham are above Arsenal at the moment. And they beat Chelsea at home as well. So I go Moyes. Pep, 4 out of 4 for Pep is nothing, really. They haven't really beaten anyone significant yet. I mean, they beat Newcastle at home, but I expected them to win that. They'll give it to Pep or Moyes, I reckon. But it is what it is, people. Listen, thank you very much for tuning in today. Let me read these last couple of super chats. Bleck said, I'm a CR7 fan, but this Ballon d'Or belongs to Messi. I agree with you. I love Messi. Hype said, people forget that Croatia and Netherlands had equal chance to beat Argentina. If it was rigged, they shouldn't have even equalised. Big up yourself, Hype. Big up Bleck with the super chats. Big up to everyone locked in today. Hope you're well. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We'll have some content out over the weekend. I mean, looking at it, England play tomorrow night, 5 o'clock against Ukraine. Is that worth a watch along? I genuinely don't like watching England games. I'm just thinking Declan Rice, Saka, Zinchenko. Is it worth doing? I'll put a poll up on the community page. Would you like me to do a watch along for England against Ukraine, or is it just too boring? Let me end the poll. E. Ross said, what's your email? CurtisShawTV@hotmail.com. I'm old school, people, before you ask. I am Hotmail. Messi, 51%. Haaland, 43%. And 6% to Kylian Mbappe, people. There you go. The winner is Lionel Messi, the GOAT, of course. Yeah, let me know if you want to watch along for England tomorrow. If not, don't worry about it. They're boring games anyway. Big up to everyone locked in. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you all tomorrow, people. Bless.